by sympathy. That's just by sympathy of the speaker. So let it not be, we'll not deal with that now. Let's not deal with that. No more of that. We move to the next order.
Order number 8, report on a public petition regarding insecurity in Saku constituents and the larger Marsabit County. Question to be put.
What's the point of order, Honorable Mbadi?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wish to pursuant to Standing Order number 53, request that the question on this motion regarding the report of the Departmental Committee on Administration and National Security that was presented to the House by Honorable Saku, the MP for Saku, Honorable Alice Russell, on matters of security in Marsabit, be deferred, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, while I have absolutely no intention of questioning decisions made by this House, Mr. Speaker, it is my view that the report under question is an important report, touching on matters of security, and has the potential of even escalating the matters of security in that region. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you for exempting this matter even from Standing Order number 2272 to allow debate on it. But Mr. Speaker, in my view, that given the issues that are raised in the report and the emotive natures I've mentioned of matters related to security, I wish to request for more time for further consultation on the matter. And in particular, Mr. Speaker, there are a number of issues that were raised during debates, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, if you could ask Jaldesa to keep quiet so that I prosecute my matter, she had her day. Mr. Speaker, one of the most fundamental issues that arose during the debate is whether a member who has presented a petition to the House pursuant to Standing Order 225 can proceed to make amendments to the report on the same petition made by the committee to which the petition is committed. Mr. Speaker, if a member has an issue and has brought a petition to the House, Mr. Speaker, it is considered that the House would objectively, through a committee, go out there, investigate the matter, and present a report to the House. Mr. Speaker, if the same member who has petitioned brings again amendments, it amounts to writing the report by the same member who has petitioned the report, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, these are matters that are supposed to be canvassed for posterity. It's not a question of today. Today it is Honorable Russell, tomorrow it will be Honorable Mbadi. I think we need to treat this House, Mr. Speaker, with dignity and do things that would, Mr. Speaker, leave the times, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, this is a matter that, Mr. Speaker, would request your indulgence. Honorable Russell has a right to canvass issues and can bring matters here, but where you have a direct interest, Mr. Speaker, and if you look at that report, Mr. Speaker, I've read the report. Honorable Russell, with all due respect, is mentioned in the report a number of times, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, we would be irresponsible as a House to allow the same member to bring amendments to a report. I know the amendments were carried, Mr. Speaker, but even though they were carried, the motion has not been voted on, Mr. Speaker. It's still the property of the House. I would want to seek, I'm not saying that we kill the report at this stage, Mr. Speaker, because killing a report of a committee is not very good for this House. I am trying to restrain this House from killing this report, because that would be the only other route left for those of us who are unhappy with what has transpired. But before we go that direction, Mr. Speaker, I would request that we defer putting a motion on this report, question on this motion, so that we can consult. But in the event, Mr. Speaker, that I can see some agitation, excitement from the women rep for Isiolo, for Marsabit. She can be excited. Is she the women rep for Isiolo?
Honorable Jaldesa.
You know, she's behaving like she's coming from Marsabit, so I'm getting a bit confused. But the bottom line is, Mr. Speaker, this is my request to you, that you defer putting question to this motion so that we can consult further. And I'm raising this in my capacity as a leader of minority, requesting that we don't make a decision at the moment. Mr. Speaker, thank you.
Honorable Duale. I think let's do this, honorable members. Before Honorable Duale speaks, let's allow people to just canvass the point raised by the Honorable John Mbadi. Let's not go to other matters that, because I can see there will be some excitement, so that we just deal with the technical issue that the Honorable John Mbadi has raised. Honorable Duale.
Mr. Speaker, it is such a moment that the input of a ranking member will be required. Mr. Speaker, the matter before us on the onset is not a government bill, it's not a government matter, it's a report emanating from a petition brought by a member of this House. So, Mr. Speaker, based on the practice and the standing orders, it is the leader of majority, and I have done it several times, that can withdraw a government agenda at any stage in consultation with you, the Speaker. So this matter, it's not a government agenda. It is not a minority-sponsored bill or motion. So, Mr. Speaker, in the first place, the leader of minority must come out clearly and make full disclosure the intent and purpose of his point of order. Mr. Speaker, let me come back to procedure, Mr. Speaker. Let me come back to procedure. Mr. Speaker, last week, on Thursday, you ruled that the leader of majority of this House can file a question to a committee on behalf of the people of Kipipiri. You gave this, forget about a chair. When we have seen members filing questions to their own committee, Mr. Speaker. Not once, not twice, not thrice. And last week, somebody raised and said the leader of majority cannot, and you ruled that the leader of majority, Mr. Honorable Amos Kimunya, in the interest of the people he represents in this House, can file a petition, can file a statement, can file a question. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Mbadi is right within what he said. I totally agree with him. He is a man who understands the procedure, but he should have raised this matter before, and he should have been in the House on Thursday before the debate was completed. What is before this House right now is the question to be put. And Mr. Speaker, we need a very valid reason. Very valid reason. It's not the chairman of the Committee of National Security asking for a deferment, neither the vice chair, neither a member of that committee. Honorable Raso, Mr. Speaker, and the amendments that he brought to this report, Mr. Speaker, you, our substantive Speaker, have signed it. You signed the amendments. The amendments were procedurally brought before the House. And I remember, Mr. Speaker, one of the amendments which you felt was contradictory, was not in line with the report. Honorable Raso dropped that amendment. So, Mr. Speaker, we were here last Thursday. There was a very hot debate here. The amendments were carried. We were told to debate the report as amended. And I remember I took the position to amend it. Mr. Speaker, and I look at those amendments. I look at the reports. And let me tell this House, either way, and I have discussed with Honorable Junet of the line. Either way, if you kill this report, Honorable Raso is a winner. If you approve it, he is a winner. Let me put it very clearly. Honorable Raso was not very happy with the report, so he brought amendments. So if you approve the amendments, he is a winner. If you kill the report and you say the nays are more, he is a winner. So what are we postponing, Mr. Speaker? What are we postponing? I mean, this house, people must read the report. And majority of the members here, Mr. Speaker, I am sure were not here on Thursday. They never read the report. And I want to repeat, Mr. Speaker, and ask Honorable Mbadi, the more we postponed, in fact, the more we postponed, the more we cause more tension in Marsabit. And Mr. Speaker, and I said it last week, Mr. Speaker, I said it, if you don't come from that region, you would understand. This is a county where great leaders from this house lost their lives. Dr. Bonaya Godana, Abdi Sasura, Dr. Guracha Galgalo, the member for Muriuki Kariuki, General Aden, you know, Chelanga, Bishop, many people died. Let us not play around with it. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to know, it is the first time in this house that I am seeing a motion, a report of a committee being postponed, somebody is asking to be postponed. It is not the chair, it's not the vice chair, it is the leader of the minority. Where the interest is coming from, I don't know. I think, Mr. Speaker, this house needs to discuss more fundamental issues. I have a motion at 5:30, and thank you very much for approving it. The people of northern Kenya are dying. Our livestock is dead. A government is saying they have given 2 billion. We can see it. Mr. Speaker, and I really want to ask on the floor, the CS for National Treasury should not play politics in this house. He should not. He is my best friend. I know Ukur, but Ukur cannot play politics. If he wants to play politics, let him become a member of parliament. Let him vie as a member of parliament. Mr. Speaker, he can't have his cake in the executive and his cake in the legislature. Mr. Speaker, I really want to ask you, Mr. Speaker, your wisdom, we save time, we put the question, if there is a division, people vote. Mr. Speaker, people vote, then we go ahead, we continue. Thank you.
Now, honourable members. No, I want to give a member of the committee a chance to say something, and that is the Honourable Kaluma. But be brief. Let's go to the issues raised by the Honourable Mbadi.
Yes, I thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, I did not have opportunity to speak to the report because I was away on Thursday on other business of Parliament. But Honourable Speaker, I request we target the constitutional issue raised. Honourable Speaker, not the merits of the report. I think the issue being raised by Honourable Mbadi is can a petitioner before Parliament sit when Parliament makes a report making recommendations and proceed only not to move to amend the report, but the recommendations. And Mr. Speaker, this is important because it is not a matter that will just affect this matter. But this is a House of President. What we do today will affect other matters. Mr. Speaker, relevant to this matter, when this particular petition was remitted to the committee visited Marsabit. And Mr. Speaker, among the people the committee met was the petitioner, Honorable Dido Raso, Honorable Chachu Ganya. There was Honorable Arbele, who was a member of the committee. And we told them, we will meet you. After we meet you, leave us to meet the people. So that, number one, Mr. Speaker, I'm confirming the petitioner, having been a petitioner, was also heard by the committee with the facilitation of this parliament. Mr. Speaker, to allow that petitioner to be seen in public suggesting amendments to the report, to me will make the other people we listened to question whether he had a privileged position above them. And to me, it bothers me. But number two, Honorable Speaker, in law we have two principles which undergird the idea of natural justice. One is that you shall not be condemned unheard. But the other is what is captured in the Latin phrase called nemo judae, in re causa sua. No man shall be a judge in his own cause. Mr. Speaker, if we allow a petitioner to propose amendments to a report, which is like a judgment by a committee of the House brought to the House for ratification, it is the perfect case, Honorable Speaker, of allowing a person to write his own judgment. And I would be worried we would not be just afoul the law on natural justice, but we would have set a very dangerous precedent for Parliament. And so, without going to the report, I would have been very happy if the recommendations and amendments that were moved by Honorable Dito Raso were moved by even any other party, not a party to the report. In the manner it is, Honorable Speaker, my view is not just that we differ, but my view is that those matters having been moved by the petitioner, and because the appearance that is writing his own judgment cannot be avoided to any reasonable person, number one, they be nullified and annulled out of that report. They be annulled by the Speaker, because the Speaker allowed this. The Speaker, they are null and void and law for breach of the nemo judae rule. So my request is that you direct that those amendments, to the extent that they were brought by the petitioner, whether or not the House ratified them, they are null and void, and you pronounce them nullified. That can give the opportunity, Honorable Speaker, if you can exercise your discretion in fairness to Honorable Raso and the members who sat. It can then be deferred. So if they still want to pursue them through another member, let the member bring them, but not him. And I'm saying this just for constitutionality and precedence. Honorable Speaker, I urge that we approach it that way. It would be a dangerous precedent.
No, honourable members, the issue here is not, you know, honourable members, I appreciate one thing, that decisions in a House of Parliament are made by way of a vote. So I can see that excites many of us. You've heard me in the past express my views about the provisions in the Parliamentary Powers and Privileges Act, where I have suggested and proposed that indeed the Speaker be removed from being the chair of that Committee of Powers and Privileges. So, now what is this one doing? Now, some members have become hawkers on the floor. How did he know that everybody is thirsty? So honourable members, it's for that reason that I'm saying that this matter is not light. The issues that particularly have been articulated by Honourable Kaluma are not light issues. So even as much as you know, it's a question of a vote. And like I said last week, I know usually there are very few members on Thursday afternoons, but on Tuesdays there are very many, and they are always ready to vote. What they vote for is completely. So I'm assuming the Honourable Pukosa says that they have been briefed. Let me hear the chairman of Justice and Legal Affairs Committee. Yes.
Thank you, Chairman. Sorry, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg your indulgence. I would like to buttress on what Honorable Kaluma submitted. Mr. Speaker, once my understanding of the position is, once the recommendation is brought to this House by a committee, and the House does not adopt that recommendation, the recommendation then becomes amended through the House, and the amendments are carried. It becomes a new petition. That's my submission. It loses the original format. When it loses the original format, it becomes something new. It becomes a new petition. So in my view, the petition should be taken back for the consideration by the committee that recommended the original report, to consider the whole petition inclusive of the amendments, because the format of the original petition is changed. What you have now, it is the House trying to build a new petition. Thank you.
Let me hear Honorable Tiende Amolo.
Mr. Speaker, I want to lend my voice to the issue that is raised by Honorable John Mbadi, as amplified by Honorable Peter Kaluma. Mr. Speaker, I think it is an acute issue of conflict of interest. And I would agree that if that is the issue, then it should not even be postponement, as Honorable Mbadi was suggesting. It should be an issue, Mr. Speaker, in which you rule that a member who presents a petition by way of a public petition can then not come and amend that public petition. By definition, that becomes conflict of interest. But, Mr. Speaker, I have seen that there's more. If you look at the petition as it is, as amended, the report, Mr. Speaker, number 17 has a problem. In number 17, it is purporting to direct a constitutional commission how to do its work. That is expressly contrary to Article 249 of the Constitution. Number 19, Mr. Speaker, has yet another problem. It purports to give direction to a cabinet secretary on how to deal with refugees, contrary to the Refugees Act. The Refugees Act is very clear in terms of how to deal with refugees, who is a refugee, the refugee commissioner, but now this one is bringing in the cabinet secretary. Number 20 is again another illegality. A commission of inquiry, there's an express way in Section 3 of the Commission of Inquiries Act, how a commission of inquiry is to be established. Now, this report purports to go contrary to the express provisions of Section 3 of that Act. So, Mr. Speaker, I think the problem here is that we would be committing an unconstitutionality and an illegality. And it's not just a matter of voting. We cannot vote on what is illegal. So, Mr. Speaker, I would suggest that you give an express ruling on this and defy, and so that we cannot even defy it. It is illegal. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, now I'll hear, honorable members, I want that kind of sobriety. Honorable Murugara. Now let me just hear.
Thank you.
You see, honorable members, to the extent that the Constitution has been brought,
Yes.
remember it's in our own rules. A constitutional matter can be raised at whatever stage. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First and foremost, I think we need to make it very clear. Honorable Rasso was not per se the petitioner. He was doing it on behalf of the people of Saku. And therefore, that element of conflict of interest cannot be as apparent as we are trying to be told. Number two, we actually read the report, and the Honorable Russell read the report and the findings. The proposed recommendations that were proposed and made were pursuant to the report and the recommendation and the findings. That is why they appear on the recommendations. There is nothing inconsistent with the report and the findings. One element was inconsistent, and he dropped it, which now makes everything else he has done intravious that report. Number three, Mr. Speaker, this matter is actually res judicata. The issues being raised here are matters which this House has considered and made a decision on them. Whether that decision is right or wrong, it is the decision of the House, and it carries the day. These matters were raised before the amendments were introduced. You actually allowed the House to consider, which I think is the best thing to do, so that the Speaker is not seen to make decisions on behalf of the members. The members made the decision after lengthy debate, acrimonious, heated debate. We agreed on those amendments being part of the report. That is res judicata. We cannot reopen it at this present moment in time. I'm sorry, if you were not there to raise your concerns that time, you cannot raise those concerns now. And finally, I don't agree, even if Russell was actually a petitioner, that he cannot make recommendations. He can. Even in a judgment of the court, you know very well, as a plaintiff or defendant, judgment comes out, you find that it has an error apparent. You actually seek a review. So surely that review is taken to a judge, the way those recommendations were brought before the House. If the judge agrees, he goes by the proposals you have made. If he does not agree, you are thrown out and your application is lost. In this instance, it was brought before us, we debated, we agreed that those recommendations were merited. Therefore, that makes us functus. Today, the only postponement and the only negotiation that can be done is how the question is going to be put. What sort of a negotiation is that? What are we going to be discussing? It's functus. It's res judicata. We are done on the question for this House to approve or reject. Nothing else.
Honorable TJ Kajwang.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. The member of Tharaka has spoken very well, as a good lawyer should. Unfortunately, let me just tell him with a lot of respect that this happens not to be a court of law. This is National Assembly, and those rules that we are all used to when we are arguing for our clans and so on are not, they are useful, but they are not really applicable here. And so he has spoken about all those big things that I'm not so sure whether members have followed res judicata. He has spoken about things to do with the functus officio. I'm sure members are wondering which are these officials which are being rendered functus. Mr. Speaker, I hold nobody's brief. I don't hold brief for my leader, minority leader. Neither do I hold brief for all these people, members, honorable members of this House. But I hold brief for the House Rules and Procedure Committee. This has been a trying moment in this parliament to try to find out the correct constitutional position of petitions. Petitions is a big step, is a big value that has been brought to us in the Constitution by dint of Article 119 of the Constitution of Kenya, and which has been domesticated under the standing orders in almost the same language as the Constitution. And so we have been agonizing how to increase the space for ordinary Kenyans to be able to reach this House and voice what they think is happening other than the legislative mandate of the members here, representative mandate of the members here. And it is true that a member may petition on behalf of his residents or on behalf of his constituents. In fact, a member could also petition on his behalf and sign off the petition. So that the question that the House is dealing with this afternoon is an important one. If it is not for all these issues, and I must confess I cannot speak for the people of Marsabit because I don't come from there. I cannot talk about these facts. But I can talk on behalf of the House in the sense that we want to have an orderly procedural way by which members, if today is the members for Marsabit, tomorrow will be members of Ruaraka or anybody else, can approach this House and be heard. Now, Mr. Speaker, sir, questions of constitutionality can be raised at any time. In fact, Mr. Speaker, sir, you have a lot of latitude, including Order 1 of our rules. And this, the member of Garissa town knows very well, because that is why he invited to speak to you as a ranking member of this House. Except he should have requested, Mr. Speaker, that when an issue of constitutionality is brought, whether it is just at the verge of a decision to be taken by the House, we can arrest it and look at this decision and decide whether it is constitutional or not constitutional. Now, I am quite worried because this is the first time it has ever come that a petitioner petitions and attends the hearing of his petition as a witness, and thereafter comes to the House and assumes his role, his representative role, and decide that this is not in keeping with what his residents are saying, and so he chooses to amend it. You know, when he is amending it, he may not have the same brief that he had when he was filing the petition. Because when he was filing the petition, he was doing it on behalf of the people. When he is amending it, one does not know whether he is amending it on behalf of the people or it is his decision as in his representative capacity to make those amendments. Then when he makes those amendments, a report is discussed as amended and a vote is taken on it. Mr. Speaker, sir, these are issues which need to be clarified so that the question of petition is clear to the House, whether you are for the people of one way on the Marsabit or not, for the dignity of this House, for the procedure of this House, for the future people who will come to use the procedure of this House. The question of petition is still a nascent thing which needs careful nurturing, and I think the best way would be to retire and look at this thing very objectively and then bring to us what then becomes the norm or the tradition of this House which can be used in the future. So, irrespective of the facts of this case, I would think that Honorable Mbadi was right in one aspect, not to defy it, well, it means the same thing really, but to retire and relook at this issue, whether there is a constitutional issue that has been properly brought, and whether that issue can determine the fate of this petition. And of course, if you come to the view that there is no constitutional issue, the matter can still be brought on the order paper, and then we vote for it. Mr. Speaker, sir, I humbly beg. Thank you very much.
Can I be addressed on some interesting points that has developed in the course of these representations? Whether it is within the Speaker's powers and authority to overturn a decision of the House. No, I want. Can you? I hope you've had, because the House has made a particular decision. And remember, in our rules, once the House makes a decision on a matter, you can only now, if you want to revisit, it should be after 6 months. So the House has made some certain decisions. Yeah? One of which was to carry the amendments as proposed. Is it open within the Constitution and our rules for the Speaker to come and overturn that decision of the House? And where is that authority reposed, if at all? Remember, as you address me on that, please bear in mind also the provisions of Article 121, voting in the House. Yeah? In fact, 122, voting in the House. The Speaker has no vote. Yeah? Honorable Sankok, this is an area you are an expert in, is it?
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. You know, I come before you and I leave after you, so I've learned a lot during these 4 years that I've been here. Honorable Speaker, first of all, as per whether you have the powers to overrule a decision that have been made by this House, Honorable Speaker, I've read through the standing orders and I have not seen anywhere where it is expressed. Honorable Speaker, the petition was amended by the House, not by Honorable Raso. Honorable Raso only proposed amendment in this House, and through questions that have been put, the House itself amended this particular petition. Honorable Speaker, the petition have been in this House for more than 1.5 years, and it has been postponed every now and then, Honorable Speaker. I beg you, Honorable Speaker, not to allow any more postponement of this petition because people are dying and we don't know if there is a hidden hand of bloodthirsty vampires behind this postponement so that people of Marsabit can continue dying, Honorable Speaker. So, Honorable Speaker, justice delayed is justice denied. Let us today put a question so that those who want to kill this petition, they can do so in the floor of the House. Those who want to support the people of Marsabit, they can do so in the floor of this House, Honorable Speaker. So, Honorable Speaker, put the question so that we can make a decision in this House. And any decision that may not be constitutional can only be done and interpreted by the judiciary, because judiciary is the one that is given the mandate of interpreting the law. Honorable Speaker, you cannot be in legislative arm of government at the same time as a judiciary arm of government that you can interpret whether it is constitutional or not constitutional. Put the question, anybody aggrieved can go to court. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
No, that's here. Some of the members who want to. Member for Nyakach is also another expert.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would start by saying that this is an interesting debate, and I want to support the sentiments by the leader of minority. Mr. Speaker, Article 119 of the Constitution gives the petitioner the right to raise the issues which he raised before this House. Your Honor, the issues before you are constitutional matters. Your Honor, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that this is a house of rules and order, but this is also a house of equity, fairness, honor, and justice. Mr. Speaker, the petitioner cannot suggest that we delete what the House had indeed passed. Your Honor, I'm speaking as a member of the committee. Your Honor, the issues which were brought before this House and which you entrusted with the committees are very emotive issues. Your Honor, as I speak here, I also speak as somebody who was also a member of the committee and a member of this house who has also been a great consumer of insecurity while serving in this house, as the record would reveal. Your Honor, this house and you as the leader of this parliament, you have got some inherent authority to ensure that we do not breach the Constitution. Your Honor, some of the sentiments which are being raised, at the end of the day, this is a house of record, and whatever we decide on will go on record. If it goes on record, and that will be for posterity, some of the members who are now advocating a different view will one day come and say that, Your Honor, as we were just herdsmen, we were not experts in law, like Your Honor. As an expert in legal matters and a senior counsel long before we actually joined the profession, I want to say that you have authority under Standing Order 53.3, on which the minority leader raised this issue, to defer it, and also under Standing Order number 1 to defer the issue so that you could reflect on it soberly, because it will go on record and should not touch on your integrity in future. So with that, Your Honor, I would suggest, Your Honor, as a member of the committee, I would recall that when we were arbitrating on these issues, even Mr. Honorable Arbele, who is a member of the committee, was not allowed to be part of the report writing when we were doing this, to avoid conflict of interest. So, Your Honor, it is now within your inherent powers to look at Standing Order number 225 and on whether the petitioner can still proceed to make amendments on the petition which he presented on this house, so on the report. So I want to support the views of the majority leader, who is also a senior counsel, and also the minority leader, that we should not go on record for wrong purposes. Your Honor, also of interest, when this matter came for debate, it was also imputed that the committee, there was some imputation that members of the committee could have been compromised. I've looked at a copy of the answer and it is not yet out, and I think these are weighty issues which ought to be considered so that we can also get to the answer, so that we could use the relevant provisions to make the members who imputed that bad motive on the members of the committee, and more so the late chairman, Honorable Paul Koinange, whose reputation was known by all members of this house to substantiate those claims. So I would urge you, Mr. Speaker, to defer, invoke those inherent authorities and defer this matter under Standing Order 53 so that it can be reflected well. That would also accord this house time to consider the issues which were addressed on the drought.
But even if you were to defer, it can only be for 1 day. Honorable Makali Mulu.
Yeah, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. You know, we have been listening to the legal minds, giving us some technical words here, Honorable Speaker. I think it's important we listen to logic now. Honorable Speaker, you know, and it's on record, that this matter has been a very emotive matter in this House. As a committee, because I belong to that committee, Honorable Speaker, at one point, we had to plead with you to add us an additional 1 month so that we get to the root cause of this problem. Honorable Speaker, remember that the reason why we were pleading to be added time was because we needed to consult with all the stakeholders so that we know the root cause of this problem. And Honorable Speaker, I think, as Honorable Karuma said, this matter, everybody who is concerned was actually given a chance to be heard by the committee, including Honorable Russell. And to me, even though I'm not a lawyer, I think that just a basic question, Honorable Speaker, is what I'll call conflict of interest. You are a petitioner on a matter, Honorable Speaker, and when the report is written, you propose amendments to the report,
and the recommendations or the amendments are carried, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I think, as you said earlier, normally Thursdays the House doesn't have a lot of people, and with that one we are aware because we all go to the constituencies, others go to committee meetings. And really, Honorable Speaker, even though the records are there, I think, Honorable Speaker, I want to plead with you and agree with the minority leader that we might need to allow more time so that we look at this matter, Honorable Speaker, and more so the issue of the matter being unconstitutional. Because I think at any point as a House, I don't think we really need to vote on a matter which is being termed to be unconstitutional. So, Honorable Speaker, I really want to join my colleagues and ask you, plead with you, Honorable Speaker, that using standing order number 1, Honorable Speaker, I think you have the power to make a decision even before the question is put. I submit, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Chungwa.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I also want to weigh in on some of the issues that have been raised. And Honorable Speaker, if you listened to begin with to the Honorable John Mbadi, as he sought an adjournment to the putting of the question, there is nothing in particular that the Honorable John Mbadi raised that was constitutional in nature. Indeed, it is Honorable Kaluma who has brought in the question of constitutionality, and it is not constitutionality of the recommendations that were amended by the member for Saku. 2, Honorable Speaker, there is a presupposition, Honorable Speaker, from the argument advanced by Honorable John Mbadi, that 1, the member for Saku was the petitioner in this case, and as has been clearly articulated by Honorable Murugara, the Honorable member for Saku presented a petition on behalf of the people of Saku and Marsabit County, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, it is quite clear, and the Leader of Majority, being a seasoned member of this House having his 3rd term, knows that our own standing orders, Honorable Speaker, prohibit a member from being a petitioner or petitioning. Therefore, the presupposition that the Honorable member for Saku was a petitioner is indeed wrong ab initio, and it is faulty. It is a faulty argument to advance the argument that the member for Saku was the petitioner in this case and therefore cannot even participate in the debate of the report that came to the House, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the other question that you are being asked to rule on, Honorable Speaker, is exactly what you asked yourself. Can the Honorable John Mbadi, or indeed any other member of this House, ask the Speaker to negate a decision of this House? Mr. Speaker, you have sat there and told us that the best you can do is listen, but you cannot vote. And what John Mbadi is asking you to do this afternoon is not only to vote, but to negate the votes of all the members who spent taxpayers' time and taxpayers' money last Thursday and made a decision. Honorable Speaker, more substantively, Speaker, whenever any motion comes to this House, there are 2 or 3 things that you must do. You must debate, you take a vote, and you adopt either that motion or kill it. Honorable Speaker, that was done with this report. The report came to the House, it was debated, amendments were done under your signature, Honorable Speaker, because again, there is no amendment, be it in committee of the whole House or in a report like this during debate, that can happen without your signature allowing that amendment. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, we cannot, Honorable Speaker, be asking what John Mbadi is asking us, that to now go back to what we already did as a House, because either John Mbadi or a few other people are not happy, or apparently because they were not there. Honorable Speaker, again, we are a House, Honorable Speaker, that is guided by our own traditions. The other question, Honorable Speaker, you should consider, is this the only and first report that has been amended in this House, Honorable Speaker? Think about the TJRC report. Was it amended? Think about the debate, Honorable Speaker, I think, I don't know if it's in this Parliament or the last Parliament, is in this Parliament, on the Ruaraka land scandal, Honorable Speaker, the one that was presented, I think, by Honorable Ihenya's committee. There were proposals to amend, and they were allowed as much as they never went through. Therefore, it is not the first time that this House Speaker, I was the Vice Chair of the Public Investments Committee in the last Parliament, and I have seen it on the floor of this House, members proposing amendments to committee reports, and it is the House that makes a decision, and some were defeated. If members of the Security Committee did not agree with the amendments that were proposed by the member for Saku, they had the liberty to lobby and convince the House to kill those amendments. But the fact that they were not able to do that, and the proposals that were brought by the member for Saku were debated by this House, Honorable Speaker, and the House passed a vote on them, then what Honorable John Mbadi is asking you to do, Honorable Speaker, is asking you to become a dictator, which is very dangerous, Honorable Speaker, especially for someone like you, knowing where you are headed, Honorable Speaker. You cannot even be seen by the people of Kenya to be having dictatorial tendencies that you can negate the vote of the House with your one or non-existent vote in this House, Honorable Speaker. Therefore, I just want to tell you, Honorable Speaker, it is not right that you can negate the vote of the House. Lastly, Honorable Speaker, on the question of constitutionality, I was just asking John Mbadi when we were consulting at the bench, Honorable Speaker, are we saying that as a member of Parliament, Honorable Speaker, that as a representative of the people, when a petition is lodged, or as an MP, I cannot present a petition before this House on behalf of people that I represent, and if I do, then I am gagged by this House, Honorable Speaker, that I cannot debate, I cannot amend, and I cannot vote on that particular issue. I think the more substantive constitutional issue is on the Bill of Rights for you as a member of Parliament, whether you have the right to represent your people and how you represent them, and whether anybody, including those in the executive, who may want to capture this House, Honorable Speaker. And that, Honorable Speaker, for me, is also a very critical issue, Honorable Speaker, that you must not, as Speaker, allow those in the executive to capture this House, Honorable
you
Speaker.
See, that's why you can't just argue about now who is capturing who. I don't see the room for capture.
Honorable Speaker, I was only cautioning you, Honorable Speaker, that as Speaker, you may not allow anybody, be it in the executive or even you as Speaker, to capture the House and change the vote of the House. But indeed, in this case, Honorable Speaker, it's quite clear that there, and I've raised this issue, Honorable Speaker, before you, even with the Ministry of Interior, Honorable Speaker, and the questions that are before the same committee.
You see, when we digress like this, it becomes very difficult for you. We are no longer dealing with...
Let me rest my case there, Honorable Speaker.
Now, something on what?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I've been in this House enough times. And Mr. Speaker, this is a House of procedure. This is a House of traditions. Mr. Speaker, on the question whether the Speaker can be able to... Mr. Speaker, on the question whether the Speaker can be able to change the decision of this House, Mr. Speaker, the answer is no. Mr. Speaker, you have no vote. And in case you change, Mr. Speaker, it's tantamount to gross misconduct, Mr. Speaker, and it can be room for impeachment. The only person, Mr. Speaker, who can change the decision of this House is the President under Article 115 on presidential assent and referral, Mr. Speaker, and he must give justification. Mr. Speaker, Article 119 is clear. Anybody can petition this House, and this House can repeal or do an amendment. When a report comes on this floor of the House, Mr. Speaker, it's not automatic that an amendment will carry the day unless justification has been given. And Mr. Speaker, from procedure and traditions, we've seen it clearly that any amendment to come through here, you must append your signature for approval. Mr. Speaker, is this House to veto whatever decision? I remember in the last Parliament, Mr. Speaker, when I was in the Committee of Appointments, when we said that Phyllis Kandie was not fit at that time, Mheshimiwa brought an amendment. I think it was Honorable Mili or Honorable the Father of the House. Absolutely. And at that time, whatever decision was made, it carried the day. So it goes without saying, Mr. Speaker, at a time like this, is this House to make the decision? You have no right at all, Mr. Speaker, even to amend a comma. Is this House
to make the decision. I thank you.
On the contrary, I have inherent power to make those grammatical. Just for your information, I have that inherent power to make those corrections, but they are grammatical, typographical errors. So you can't. But now, honourable members, I think we have debated this matter. Honorable Maore. Honorable Maore.
Mr. Speaker, I also wish to agree that this is a very weighty matter before us as a House today. I know there is the urge to pass this vote as carried by the House during the committee stage. And, Mr. Speaker, if we are the House of Lords, where you have the law lords, we can just pass it anyway because it can be intercepted there and corrected. But we don't have it. If you remember the issues elucidated by Honorable Otiende Amolo, I know there are people who want to put their cotton buds in their ears, they didn't want to hear them. Those are constitutional weighty matters. And Mr. Speaker, I would also wish to just plead with you. Using standing order number 1, we are not asking you to veto the vote of the House, but to look for a more amenable way of correcting the mistake that was done by overlooking the issues raised, which are constitutional. I remember myself, I spoke in seconding this report, but after the amendment, this is not the thing I did second. So, Mr. Speaker, my wish, you ignore the passion and the mob that is shouting about supporting without getting into the consequences of what we're asking. I would hate to hear refugees from Ethiopia are moved into Marsabit and Isiolo to come and become voters just because somebody wants numbers. So, Mr. Speaker, please save the country, use your office. Thank you.
This the member for Wajir North, Honorable Abdisalan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me confirm that Marsabit County is my neighbor, and at times the conflicts even happening in Marsabit happen within my constituency. I want to request members, I want to plead with members to be extremely careful and to sober up as much as we are making decisions here. The decisions we are making here can lead to loss of lives or can save lives. When I look at the contribution of the members, you are divided into your different political groups. You are not bothered about the lives and well-being of the people of Marsabit County. I want to urge you to sober up and make decisions in a very sober way. Mr. Speaker, that said, Mr. Speaker, that said, Mr. Speaker, I want to confirm once again that I have worked with the Kenya Red Cross Society as the regional manager for Northern Kenya, and Mr. Speaker, I have had a meeting with both communities during my tenure as regional manager. More than 5-6 meetings at Moyale, and as well as several meetings here at Nairobi. I am aware of a lot of information that members who are making contributions on the floor of this House are not aware. That notwithstanding, when I come to the real issue, Mr. Speaker, number 1, I believe in the fact that the wearer knows where the shoe pinches. They were better positioned to solve this issue, not on the floor of this House, but outside the floor of this House. But that said, still a petition was brought to this House. The committee have made their independent investigations, a report submitted. Now, the petitioner is making an amendment to a magnitude that changed the content of this report totally. Now, are we in a position to accept the report, which is no longer the report of the committee now, but the report of the petitioner? I will request my sister from Isiolo County to be cognizant of the fact that I am close to Marsabit more than her, and she should respect that fact. Mr. Speaker, number one, we must, this is a house where justice is observed. We must be fair. Mistakes have happened. Now that mistakes have happened, shall we continue with the mistakes made, or we should stop at a certain position and ask ourselves, isn't it the right time to correct? We should not be creating dangerous precedences where one can make, where a petitioner can make an amendment to a magnitude that changes the entire report. Under Article 119, I appreciate that any person has a right to petition Parliament to consider any matter within its authority. But we must put safeguards in place to ensure that it is not mutilated to a level where we are causing confusion, where we are causing conflicts, where we are becoming war makers other than lawmakers. Mr. Speaker, I think this is a very difficult moment. It is a moment for you to go back to the drawing board. It is a moment for you to make a decision that will save lives. It is a moment for you to create a precedent where members cannot mutilate the report of a departmental committee to a level where they want. Mr. Speaker, in the event we put this question to members and make a decision today, we will be creating very dangerous precedents that will haunt all of us. Mr. Speaker, it may be bitter, but we must swallow the bitter pill, and we must go back to the drawing board and make a decision that will save lives and livelihood of the people of Marsabit County. I submit.
Now, honourable members. Now, honourable members, because you know now, Honourable Abdisalan decided to go and address. You are addressing the contents of the report, and not this aspect which was brought out. Honourable Wanga will allow you just 3 minutes.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, I listened as Honourable Mbadi raised the issue of deferment. And what he was calling upon you was the fact that this matter is emotive. It is a matter that, whichever way it goes, can actually escalate conflict rather than reduce it. I listened to Honourable former Leader of Majority speaking. He spoke about winners, that somebody will win and another person will win and so on. So, Honourable Speaker, yourself, I want to just bring your attention to Article 10 of the Constitution and the fact that we as state officers, including yourself, are called upon in the performance of our duties, not to just look at the letter of the law of what is happening, but also to look at our national values. That includes national unity. How are our decisions promoting national unity? And this is what I wanted to bring to your attention, Speaker, in addition to the issues that have been raised by our colleagues, Honourable Kaluma, Honourable Otiende, and the others who are raising constitutional matters. Can we defer this matter? Honourable Speaker, earlier on the chair, you spoke to the issue that we are coming closer to election and therefore more prone to conflict. This is not the same year that we were in 2018 when we could make a decision and it just goes. As we move closer to election, we are also very, very likely to spark conflict with whatever decision that we make. We are dealing with conflict in Laikipia. We are dealing with conflict in several parts of this country. So, Honourable Speaker, I just wanted to, on the basis of Article 10, ask you to use Standing Order number 1 to defer this question so that also the temperatures can come down, so that people can... I was here, Honourable Speaker, I was here on Thursday when this matter was being debated, when the amendments were being debated. Even very close friends of mine, they were almost fighting. You know, they were very agitated. It's a very emotive issue, and I understand. But Honorable Speaker, if this House can serve a purpose in cooling down the temperatures, then it is called upon us to do so. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Now, we must bring this to an end. I think I've had sufficient representation, and I have looked at both the Constitution and the standing orders. First of all, this matter we are dealing with is a report of a committee on a petition. And if you look at standing order 227, subsection 2, actually, it says the Speaker may allow, after tabling of a report, some comments, not debates, for a period not exceeding 20 minutes. Not a debate. Because, and the reason why the standing order reads like that, and I'm happy that the Honorable T.J. Gajuang is here, and he's been very passionate about the rules. This is one of the areas that our own standing orders have a lacuna. Because the petition is merely reported to the petitioner. The report is tabled, no debate, except in exceptional circumstances. I allowed this one because, as you all will appreciate, when the Honorable Russell read out his petition, there were quite a number of other issues from other members from around Marsabit County, which touched on insecurity. And therefore, really, the report on that was exceptional. And I'm also aware, indeed, the committee spent quite some time listening not just to the members of parliament concerned, but also the residents. And a report which the committee has gone to such length, surely it was not going to just be reported on, the clerk to just write to the Honorable Russell, and then we walk away. Go with the report, it may be filed in his cabinet, and enjoy it as part of his legacy. It was fair that the House expresses itself one way or other on the issues that the committee found on the ground. And therefore, I allowed that the report of the committee on this petition was to be debated. I have looked at the recommendations, even after the amendments. I'm just wondering, number one, a recommendation that the Cabinet Secretary for Coordination and National Government, as a matter of urgency, ensures adequate National Police Service personnel are deployed to Marsabit, and any existing gaps to be filled by Kenya Police Reservists in coordination and consultation with the National Police Service. I see no harm in that. We always recommend that the Cabinet, the Executive do this or the other. The other one, the Cabinet Secretary for Lands and Physical Planning, the National Lands Commission, as a matter of urgency, should address the disputes and clearly demarcate administrative and communal boundaries in Marsabit County. This is a recommendation on our members. Those to whom it is directed are at liberty, upon receipt of the recommendation, to say, well, because even the National Commission can investigate historical land injustices on its own motion or upon being moved. This, in my view, is just a way of trying to move them, go into the area, find out what is the problem. They may or they may not, and they will have their reasons for not, if they feel it is not necessary. The Cabinet Secretary for Interior should rationalize the creation of new sub-counties in Marsabit and address the current imbalance across the 4 constituencies. Again, I see no harm in this. It's a recommendation. 19, the Cabinet Secretary for Interior should facilitate the return of Kenyan refugees in Ethiopia. Yeah, it's facilitation. It's facilitation. How that is done through the avenues of the law dealing with the refugees, isn't it? Commission of inquiry should be established. It's up to those responsible of establishing, setting up a commission of inquiry to look at your recommendation. They can even say, oh, sorry, Parliament, you overstepped your mandate. You have no authority to direct us to set up a commission of inquiry. And they will be within the, if the law says they can only act on their own motion. So, I see, so one of our members, these I think they don't appear injurious. And then the other issue is the Honorable John Mbadi rose and standing order number 53, requested for deferment of putting the question, which is perfect, but that deferment can only happen for 1 day. And if I was to be persuaded to do so, I must appoint the time at which the question will still be put. And that's standing order number 53. So, honour members, having determined that these recommendations, in the manner that they are not injurious, I have only one issue that should be directed to the Procedure and House Rules Committee as to how in future we deal with the whole question of petitions. I know there's a bill. I think one of you has proposed a bill, Petitions to Parliament Bill. You'll have to decide whether you want to have that governed by an act of Parliament or through your own standing orders. As it is, when people bring their petitions, when the committee completes, we occasionally just write back to them and tell them, it's like what you write, what you see written RTS. You return to sender the findings. Now, the committee could even make recommendations, which the House does not have to adopt. The House merely notes. But of course, as you all know, those kind of reports are not as efficacious as those that carry a resolution of the House, as a House. And I think Honorable TJ, you and I, and Honorable Patrick Mariru, and Honorable Mulele, and Honorable Cheboy, we have some work to do, because this is an area that we need to clean up, even if it's for posterity. We don't have to be the ones to implement, so that those that come after us will have some better, more improved method of dealing with petitions. There? Honorable TJ Kajwang is already thinking about a retreat to the island of the Seychelles. So, honourable members, I determined as follows, that the House, as a House, having been moved by the Honourable Russell to consider his proposed amendments, and having carried those amendments, it will be a greater travesty on the part of the Speaker to purport to overturn that decision by the House. I can assure you I will not do that, because I will be assuming a vote that I am specifically barred from assuming under Article 122 of the Constitution. And therefore, honourable members, because as one one former member of the House, the late J.J. Kamodo, said about something that used to happen at some place called Kasarani. So now, this decision now rests on your shoulders and not on mine. Yeah? Can I take my seat to allow those members to make their way? Let them make their way in. Okay. So, honour members, I will read the motion in full. And it is as follows. I put the question. This is the motion as amended. That this House adopts a report of the Departmental Committee on Administration and National Security on its consideration of a public petition regarding insecurity in Saku constituency and the larger Marsabit County, laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, August 11th, 2021, subject to Roman 1, deletion of recommendation 2, appearing under recommendations in part 5 on page 90 of the report, Roman 2, deletion of the words including Ambalo, Badan, Rero, Ele, Elebor, Ele Dimtu, Dimtu, and Kubi Kalo, after the word county in recommendation 4, appearing under recommendations in part 5 on page 90 of the report. Roman 3, deletion of recommendation 8, appearing under recommendations in part 5 on page 91 of the report, and substitution with the following. The new 8. The Cabinet Secretary for Interior and Coordination of National Government, as a matter of urgency, ensures adequate National Police Service personnel are deployed to Marsabit, and any existing gaps to be filled by Kenya Police Reservists in coordination and consultation with the National Police Service. 2, number 4, deletion of the ones in Koso, Banchale, Salesa, and Isako Umuro, after the ones displaced persons in recommendation 4, appearing under recommendations part 5 on page 91 of the report. 5, insertion of the following new recommendations under recommendations in part 5 on page 92 of the report. The new 17, the Cabinet Secretary for Lands and Physical Planning and the National Land Commission, as a matter of urgency, should address the disputes and clearly demarcate administrative and communal boundaries in Marsabit County. 18, the Cabinet Secretary for Interior and Coordination of National Government should rationalize the creation of new sub-counties in Marsabit County and address the current imbalance across the 4 constituencies, that is Saku, Laisamis, North Hor, and Moyale, as a matter of urgency. And new 19, the Cabinet Secretary for Interior and Coordination of National Government should facilitate the return of Kenyan refugees in Ethiopia. 20, a commission of inquiry should be established pursuant to the provisions of Commission of Inquiry Act, Cap 103, to comprehensively look into the perennial security problems of Marsabit County and come up with a lasting solution. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of contrary opinion say nay? Nay. The ayes have it. Yeah, I think, yeah, you are enough to call to demand for a division. Yeah. Yeah, you have the numbers. You have the numbers. Honor members, very quickly, I direct the sergeant at arms to ring the division bell for 10 minutes in the first instance. 10 minutes, ring the division bell. Okay, honor members, take your seats, take your seats. Take your seats, take your seats. Stop, take your seats, stop the division bell. Draw the bars and lock the doors. Draw the bars and lock the doors. Members who may be behind who desire to come, they better come. If they intend to participate, can you? Very well. Hello? This is it. Yeah. Okay, honour members, take your seats so that we can clear this now. That one. That might be the member for Larry, is it? Now, honour members, I've been informed that there are some members who don't have cards. Is that correct? Or have cards which are malfunctioning. This one, member for Nyamira, we have not finished. Once the bars have been drawn, you can't even walk out, so there's no need. So, honour members, we therefore will do a hybrid. A hybrid for those who have cards. I believe all of you now have withdrawn them. You have locked out. Yeah? Those that have no cards, please approach the just approach the both right and left. No. No, pass, there's no problem. So, here is evidence, honour members, that many of you have lost your accounts. Or you just wake up from some places. So, these ones, so now honour members with the cards. Yeah? You know, these ones who are coming. Even the member for Madare doesn't. Well, I can understand the member for Madare not having a card. Member for Madare can't have a card. So, honour members, I will now read the question again in keeping with our rules of procedure. Now, honour members, I will read the question again for those that may have just been dragged from the various places or from the streets. The question is, the House adopts a report of the Departmental Committee on Administration and National Security on its consideration of a public petition regarding insecurity in Saku constituency and the larger Marsabit County, motion as amended. Honour members, now log in for those of you who have cards.
This one's been not brought up.
Yeah.
until the end of the voting.
So, no. Now, honor members, the machine is counting. So, yeah, it doesn't happen. No, the machine is still counting how many people are in. Now, no members. The system is logging in. Oh, yako ni ile ya Kibera.
It's not asking for the pillar. We have not yet voted.
No, members, we have not voted. Member for Runyenjes is not your Commercial Bank of Africa account.
20 seconds, log in. 20 seconds.
20 seconds.
Log in. Log in. Maybe you forgot the pin. Yeah, the pin number is over.
10 seconds. Yes. And those of you who are this way, please, you cannot go back there until the voting is electronic voting is complete.
I'll take your vote now.
Vote now. Vote now.
Go. Go.
Now, please. One by one.
No, you cannot come here. No. You no. How do you know? The speaker has not announced. Have you seen the notes? No. How do you know? No, have you seen your name? No, I shouldn't give. They are going to give you the physical results. That's the only time. electronic ones. Take electronic. I, nose, abstention. Or electronic. Plus is 43, right? Nose, 61. Abstention, none. Now I'm waiting for your tally. What's the name? No. Yes, totally 19. Polling station was closed. 19 yes, 2 no. Polling station was closed. Please wait for the speaker. Yes, yes. Check again, just check again. Check your totals again. So my totals are
100 members, 100 members. 100 members. Honour members, now you can take your seats, honour members. You can take your seats. You can take your seats. You can take your seats. Now, Honourable Shamala, take your seat. Now, honour members, this is the result of the division. Electronically, the ayes 43, the nays 61. Manual voting, the ayes 19, the nays 13. Total, the ayes 62, the nays 74. Honour members, the nays have it, and the net result is the motion is lost. Next order. You can open the doors, withdraw the bars, open the doors.